Do you keep an eye on your car's fuel consumption? Because it can actually indicate you've got a problem with your car. If you suddenly notice the fuel consumption increases, the car is mysteriously using a lot more fuel than it used to, that can be caused by other fairly serious problems, or it can at least be a symptom that you are going to have looming problems, or maybe even a breakdown. This video, we're just going to discuss the typical causes of worsening fuel consumption and what to do about it, how to address the problem, how to diagnose the faults. We're going to break this down into three areas. Typically then, you'll have driver problems. Your driving style will contribute toward the fuel consumption. If your driving style is adjusted, you're more aggressive with the throttle, for example, you're going to use more fuel. If you're now doing short journeys, whereas you used to do a lot of long drives, that also is going to impact fuel economy. The second area we need to think about is mechanical faults, mechanical problems. The car takes a lot of effort to get moving, and if there's increased friction somewhere, that is going to require more effort, more fuel to get the car moving. Typical problem areas are wheel bearings. You may have noticed them making a humming or buzzing noise as you're driving along. The car may be slowing up more quickly when you ease off the throttle. It may happen after you pull away. The brake caliper is perhaps dragging. You're getting friction in the brake pads. If you check the wheel after you've done the drive and the wheel is unusually hot, that is usually an indicator of friction in the brake system or in the wheel bearing, and that should be investigated. That is just going to get worse as the heat builds up. It's going to exacerbate the problem, and you're going to have a lot more to deal with. Your modern engine has lots of different sensors monitoring the way the fuel burns, the temperature of components, the pressure of air and fuel going into and out of the engine. The symptoms to look out for is uneven throttle response, bad idling, a loss of power, or just generally rough running. If you scan the car with an OBD2 port reader, you can download any error codes. You can see what's going on inside the engine, and you might find that it's just an O2 sensor or a little sensor that's playing up. If you ignore that, it's going to escalate into a bigger problem. You're probably going to have an engine that's producing more soot. It's not burning as clean, and that is going to have a knock-on effect with other components. Think also about the engine temperature. Engines are typically designed to run at about 90 degrees centigrade. If it's a hybrid, it's probably running about 60 or 70 degrees centigrade most of the time. But the engine has a peak operating temperature range that it's good in. If it's outside of that, it's going to affect the fuel economy, and that can indicate other problems. Perhaps the cooling system is not as effective. Have you noticed the temperature spiking up? Have you noticed erratic movement on the temperature gauge? That can indicate perhaps a problem with the thermometer. Perhaps the water pump is playing up and the coolant is not circulating effectively. Maybe one of the thermostatic valves is jamming open or closed, causing the temperature to be too low or too high, or to oscillate wildly between the two. If you notice temperature fluctuations and the engine is not as economical as it used to be, investigate the whole cooling system. Check for leaks, check the level is correct, check the antifreeze is the correct type, and you've got the correct mix of antifreeze and fluid inside the cooling system. Fuel delivery problems. You think about the modern engine, you've got direct injection on most cars now, where the fuel is going into the engine at very high pressures. The fuel needs to be a mist in order for it to atomize properly and burn efficiently. If those injectors are slightly clogged, the fuel may not be making the fine mist. It might be dribbling into the cylinders. You may be getting incorrect quantities of fuel going into the engine. And the car may just generally be dumping more fuel to try and make up for power, but the fuel is being burnt less efficiently. It's producing more soot. You may notice the engine is slightly more smoky when it's being driven, particularly when the engine is warm. You might notice uneven combustion and uneven tick over. One of the first and easiest things that we can do is just run a good quality injector cleaner through a tank of fuel and see if that improves things. If it improves things slightly, it's probably a fuel injector problem, and maybe you need to replace the fuel injectors. You might get away with using more fuel cleaner. You may get away with moving to a branded fuel that has got a decent set of detergents and additives inside the fuel. Misfires and ignition faults, you'll almost certainly feel this. You'll notice the engine is running really roughly. You'll have a loss of power. You'll be struggling to get up hills, and if one cylinder isn't isn't firing or isn't firing all the time, that fuel is going to be dumped into the catalyst. The engine is probably going to be over-fueling to compensate for the lack of power. Just replacing the spark plugs, checking the spark plugs, and just making sure the leads that take the current to the spark plugs are in good order. Check the coils. Some engines now have individual coils per spark plug. If you notice a misfire on, say, cylinder 2 and you swap the coils over and the misfire moves to cylinder 3, you've got a problem with the coil pack, and that's a nice easy way of diagnosing the fault. If it stays in cylinder 2, it's probably one of the cables or the actual spark plug itself. The PCV, the positive crankcase ventilation system, takes excess pressure out of the engine. Think about what's going on in the engine: combustion events, pistons moving at high velocity. There's big dramatic changes of air pressure inside the engine, and the PCV helps to equalize this out. When you're a piston, too much pressure is going to be like a human wading through water. It's going to be harder work getting through the pressure. And if the PCV system is blocked or fouled up, it can lead to excessive pressure, and that can cause other problems inside the engine, and notably a drop in fuel economy. Engines like us need to breathe efficiently. The air filter helps clean the air as it goes into the engine. The exhaust spits the hot gases out of the engine. If there's blockages or restrictions in either of these, it can dramatically affect the way the car is breathing. It can effectively be cutting the airflow in half in some extreme cases, and that can lead to much worse fuel economy. Your engine is only going to be a fraction as efficient as it potentially could be. Check the air filter is clean and has been replaced at the recommended interval or better. In modern exhaust, you've got your catalyst, you've got particulate filters now as well. Check that they're operating correctly. You may need an OBD2 port scanning tool to actually diagnose problems. You can usually see where the air pressure is in the exhaust system and if there are any undue restrictions in there. And it may be a case of running a regeneration to clear the particulate filter, or if the engine has been producing more soot, maybe the catalyst has just become a little bit fouled up and you need to take the car on a good old Italian tune-up or spirited drive. Wheel alignment and suspension wear are other common mechanical problems. That includes having too little air in the tyre as well. Anything that affects the way the car rolls freely, if the wheels are pointing in too much, if they've got a very adverse camber, if there's a lot of vibration from the wheel, that can affect the rolling resistance effectively, making the engine work a lot harder to just push the car forward. And the third area really is just maintenance, little things that we can do as a driver to improve fuel economy. If we've skipped these, that's asking for trouble. Our economy is going to get worse because we've not done these simple checks. And I'm thinking things like checking the tyre pressures, as we've just mentioned. If you have too little air in the tyre, you can lose as much as 4 or 5% fuel economy just through having underinflated tyres. Driving smoothly, accelerating gently, anticipating the road ahead can make substantial fuel savings if that is not our usual driving style. Remove excess weight, the tools and the sports stuff that we slammed into the back of the car and we've left there because we needed it at the weekend. It's all adding weight to the car. If the car has more weight to pull around, it's going to use more fuel to do that. Reduce the aerodynamic drag. If we've had a roof rack fitted, perhaps we were on holiday, we've got one of those roof boxes mounted on the top, that will dramatically reduce the fuel economy. Check the air filters, check the fuel, check the oil, check the fuel filters, make sure the spark plugs are changed regularly. Keep using a good quality fuel, run injector cleaner through the car periodically. Let me know in the comments what your preferred injector cleaner is, and use an OBD2 port reader to download any error codes and just see what is going on in the engine. And hopefully this will help us to not only diagnose the loss of fuel economy, which can cost us a lot of money over a year, it can prevent problems escalating into much more expensive, difficult things to fix. If your fuel economy has decreased, that's not something you should ignore. That can indicate a whole host of different problems. If I've missed any out, please let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Please boot the like button because that really does help us to get out there. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Again, that helps the channel with the algorithm. And I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.